E to CD and EF are equal to 40 and 23 millimeters respectively. J small c equals 40 millimeters, and J small e equals 23 millimeters. The static moments are equal to 1000 times 40 and 1000 times 23. Therefore the first muscle can hold a much larger load, L, on the bone JB1 at H1, 100 millimeters from J, than the second muscle whose load can be designated as L1. Equilibrium exists for the first muscle if L times 100 equals 1000 times 40, or L equals 1000 times 40 over 100 equals 400 grams. For the second muscle, L1 times 100 equals 1000 times 23. L1 equals 1000 times 23 over 100 equals 230 grams. If we suppose JB to be fixed and JB1 to move in the plane of the paper about J, and the muscle CD to shorten 5 millimeters, C small d equals CD minus 5 millimeters, and with the tension of 1000 grams, JB1 will take the position JB2, and the load, L, will be lifted from H1 to H2. If the second muscle likewise shortens 5 millimeters, then E small f equals EF minus 5 millimeters, and with the tension of 1000 grams, the bone, JB1, will take the position JB3, and the weight or load, L1, will be lifted from H1 to H3. The question now is to prove that the work done is the same in both cases, namely, 5 times 1000 gram millimeters. If so, 400 times H1 H2 equals 230 times H1 H3 equals 5000 gram millimeters. Since the two radii C small d and C small d prime are very long as compared with the arc small d d prime, we may consider this short arc as a line to CD at small d prime. Likewise the arc f prime may be considered as a straight line to EF. In the same manner we can consider the short arcs F, D small d, H1 H2 and H1 H3 to the line JB1. The sides D small d prime and F prime of the delta D small d prime and F prime are each 5 millimeters. The lever arm DJ equals 60 millimeters, and JF equals 30 millimeters. The delta D prime is similar to the delta D small c J. Hence D small d to 5 is to 60 to 40. D small d equals 300 divided by 40. Also H1 H2 to D small d as to 100 to 60. H1 H2 to 300 over 40 as to 100 to 60. H1 H2 equals 300 divided by 24. Hence F to 5 is to 30 to 23. F equals 150 divided by 23. Also H1 H3 is to F as to 100 to 30. H1 H3 is to 150 over 23 as 100 to 30. H1 H3 equals 1500 over 69. 400 times 300 divided by 24 equals 230 times 1500 divided by 69 equals 5000. Thus we see that the work of the two muscles depends on the size of the contraction and on the tension, and not on the lever arm in very small contractions, or in the summation of such contractions, and therefore for large contractions. In the first muscle a large load is moved through a short distance, and in the second muscle a lighter load is moved through a greater distance. The amount of work accomplished by pinnate muscles is not dependent upon the angle of insertion of the muscle fibers into the tendon, as will be seen by the following diagram. T' equals direction of the tendon pull. WA equals direction of muscle fiber before contraction. M' equals direction of muscle fiber after contraction. V equals amount of contraction. M equals tension of the muscle. Phi equals angle of insertion of muscle fiber. T equals tendon component equals M times cosine phi equals the weight carried by the tendon to balance the muscle tension. D equals distance tendon is drawn up. 1. M times V equals work done by the muscle fiber. 2. T times D equals work done by the movement of the tendon. If we consider the distance V as being very short, then the line BC can be dealt with as though it were perpendicular to AC. Then V equals D times cosine phi, or D equals V over cosine phi. Since T equals M times cosine phi, or M equals T over cosine phi. M times V equals T over cosine phi times D times cosine phi equals T times D. If this is true for very minute contractions, it is likewise true for a series of such contraction, and hence for larger contractions. If we assume that phi equals 60 degrees, M equals 10 kilograms, and V equals 5 millimeters, the work done by the contracting muscle fiber equals mv, or 10 times 5 kilogram millimeters. Cosine angle 60 degrees equals 1/2, hence T equals 1/2 M, and D equals V over 1/2 equals 2V. 1/2 M equals 5 kilograms, and 2V equals 10 millimeters. Hence TD equals 50 kilogram millimeters, or the work done by the movement of the tendon in lifting the load of 5 kilograms a distance of 10 millimeters, and is exactly the same as that done by the muscle fiber. The load on the tendon is but 1/2 the tension of the muscle, but the distance through which the load is lifted is twice that of the amount of shortening of the muscle. If phi equals 41 degrees 20 minutes, then cosine phi equals 3 over 4. Hence T equals 3/4 M, and D equals 4/3 V, and TD equals MV. In pinnate muscles, then, we have the rather unexpected condition in which the same amount of movement of the tendon can be accomplished with less contraction of the muscle than in muscles where the fibers have the same direction as the tendon. The action of muscles on joints. If we consider now the action of a single muscle extending over a single joint, in which one bone is fixed and the other movable, we will find that muscle pull can be resolved into two components, a turning component and a friction or pressure component, as shown in Fig. 369. dF equals the fixed bone from which the muscle takes its origin. dK equals the movable bone. OI equals a line from the middle of origin to the middle of insertion. IM equals size and direction of the muscle pull. If the parallelogram is constructed with IT and MB perpendicular to DK, then IT equals the turning component, and IB equals the component which acts against the joint. The size of the two components depends upon the insertion angle, phi. The smaller this angle, the smaller the turning component, and the nearer this angle phi is to 90 degrees, the larger the turning component. IT equals IM times sine phi. IB equals IM times cosine phi. If phi equals 90 degrees, cosine phi equals 0, sine phi equals 1, hence IB equals 0, and IT equals IM. If phi equals 0 degrees, cosine phi equals 1, sine phi equals 0, hence IB equals 1, and IT equals 0. With movements of the bone dk, the angle of insertion is continually changing, and hence the two components are changing in value. If, for example, the distance from origin O to the joint D is greater than from D to I, as in the brachialis or biceps muscles, the turning component increases until the insertion angle phi equals 90 degrees, which is the optimum angle for muscle action, while the pressure component gradually decreases. If the movement continues beyond this point, the the turning component gradually decreases and the pressure component changes into a component which tends to